Although once so grand, nature always makes its reclamation. We seem to be floating in the midst of a once so beautiful bathhouse. This initial impression inspires awe through such ornate grandeur. Our perspective appears to be sitting within the pool itself, as if we're distant in the back area of this bathhouse. We look back towards the entrance as various blooms keep us in constant company. Of course, you'll notice how the colors in this composition primarily consist of pink upon a blue-green base. This is no doubt a rather calm palette, as a lower saturated scheme feels quite tranquil. The use of an analogous scheme, of course blue-green as the base here, gives a very pleasant visual experience with some hints of pink, which is a far derivative of red. We also see a stunning sense of texture. We see this conveyed in this piece everywhere, from the vines to the water and the stones themselves. Such a sight is highly realistic and feels so convincing, as if we're actually within this bathhouse. You may also notice how the source of light in this composition appears to come from both the oculus above and the distant archway beyond, both of which of course catch the eye, and due to the space that we inhabit being a little bit darker, one may wonder what lies beyond around the corner. And with this in mind, I want to ask you guys what comes to mind when you're viewing this piece. Let me know down in the comments below. Of course, there's no doubt that this work uses the ornate tradition of architectural design. Most specifically, this is the Neo-Classical tradition. This, of course, comes from the classical Greco-Roman tradition, albeit now abandoned. And one would be remiss if they didn't mention the bathhouses of ancient Rome and the social context in which they were used. These were places where people collectively gathered and cleansed themselves, with discussion and sociability occurring fluidly in the midst. And you may even be reminded of the Grand Bathhouse at Caracalla. Of course, this was an incredibly large space, absolutely grand in every sense of the word, and it would truly be a pleasure to walk amongst such luxury, fluidly mixing with friends, family, and colleagues, all in such an ornate architectural tradition. Yet we clearly see this work as overgrown, as if nature is coming to reclaim what it once had. Despite its once glory, it appears that the space is now overgrown in dilapidation. Nature is now reclaiming what once belonged to man, but is now aging towards reminiscent ruin. The space stands as the remnants of a lost and abandoned yet once great culture. It's important to remember that nothing lasts forever. Yet what has happened here, and what do you see when you view this piece? Let me know down in the comments below. Thus, this work is rooted in a very rich architectural tradition, both culturally and artistically. We see beautiful elements of nature symbolically retaking what once belonged to man, and of course a reminder that culture is kind of a light in the darkness, but it is not guaranteed. It must be worked at, it must be maintained, and this work captures that so perfectly. This piece is a multimedia product using an AI generative base, using the program Midjourney with additional digital illustration. So of course we have an incredibly unique and dynamic work where an AI generative base is then taken and digital painting is applied upon that, making it even more unique and one-of-a-kind work. I really hope you'll enjoy today. And we have studied the original artist Oknice before through his piece entitled Crocodile's Lair. We see this as well. This is an AI generative base with additional digital illustration, also known as digital painting. Of course, both of these works are incredibly rooted in history. Crocodile's Lair presenting a beautiful ancient Egyptian temple, of course incredibly immersive, and we see a crocodile lurking in the midst. Of course, comparing this back to the original work we studied today, we are now in the area of Rome or Greece with the architectural tradition of Neo-Classicism, of course in a bathhouse, all of which are incredibly historically important and add a bit of social and cultural context to the work at hand. Thus, it's a beautiful composition that brings symbolism of nature, culture, and especially in the way in which nature can kind of reclaim what once belonged to man, and a beautiful reminder that nothing lasts forever. It must be constantly worked at and maintained. Such a beautiful work, and I really hope you'll enjoy it.